This is The Reckoning, 20 July 2026, show number 335, and 1 hour of unfiltered political truth starts now. During training to be a U.S. Air Force fighter pilot, you go through a program called Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape. And in this course, part of it occurs as a simulated prisoner of war. You're interrogated and you're beaten when you do not provide the information that they're looking for. You may ask, how is it possible that in our free country we have a program like this? Well, it was required because of the experiences of the communist POWs from both Korea and Vietnam, and especially Vietnam. There is an entire code of conduct that is expected to be memorized and lived up to by our soldiers, sailors, and airmen, as well as Marines. And this simulated prisoner of war camp they put you in is a resistance training laboratory. I love the euphemisms. Now, I had the misfortune of being designated as the acting commander when I went through this program in 1986, which meant I was singled out for a little bit more attention. It always seems to work that way. Now, I've never been more cold in my life than when I was being punished for not answering questions the way they wanted. But I will tell you, it was a good training program. And as part of that program, they also kept you in isolation for several days. And little did I know that this was the part that I would need most later in life. On the 25th of June, 2023, Communist Guard Ray Getman and his partner, Gene Krebs, on the orders of the gulag captain in Springfield, Missouri, placed me into isolation, or as they call it, segregated housing. As I said, I love euphemisms, where I was to remain for 127 straight days. Now, many men talk about surviving the peaks and valleys of life, but honestly, I just inwardly smirk when I hear that, because I believe that theirs are nothing but speed bumps compared to the mountains I've scaled and the depths I have been forced to plumb. In isolation, though, you do have time to replay the events of your life, both good and bad. You have time to dig into those deep, nagging questions that often go unanswered due to the busyness of modern American life. You have a chance to confront who you truly are as a person. Now, for many people, I think this is a revelatory experience that makes them change positions. For me, it was not. It was a deepening, a reawakening of things I already knew. I already knew that man is a spiritual creature and that we are only on this earth for a short period of time. That is why I chose to give my life to a risen Savior, and I encourage you to do the same before it is too late. Isolation led me to be closer to the King of Kings, and it also gave me a deeper love of my country, to its Constitution, and to the Bill of Rights than I had before. You may say, how is this possible? You were imprisoned by your country. As I've said many times, America is a nation whose ideas are so lofty and noble they can never be achieved. We, as failed men and women, let her down. And that is what happened when patriots across this country that protested the stolen election were imprisoned and tortured by our government. Now, if you want a man or woman to appreciate something, take it away from them. My First, Second, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, and Eighth Amendment rights were all taken from me. And I am telling you now, as someone who's lost them and regained them, they are not only gifts that were created 250 years ago, they are gifts from the Almighty that He bestowed upon our nation. Now, whatever you're going through in life, no matter how hard the time seems, you should always give thanks that you were born here. To have been born an American in the 20th century is to have won the lottery of life. I'm paraphrasing an earlier quote. A nation where you have freedom to choose who you want to be and what you choose to believe. Now, there are many people that believe the sun is setting on our nation, and that may be true. But until my last breath, I will fight for our Constitution, for our Bill of Rights, our way of life, and I hope that you will join me in renewing your love of this land on its 250th birthday, and again pledging yourself to help it achieve the high and lofty ideals to which it desires to get to. Thank you. All right, let's talk about the president's speech. All right, the title of this segment, all right, and Rox, if you could post the pictures. The first one I have was a picture of President Trump mean mugging the camera when the deep state and the Biden regime brought him up on charges in Georgia. Now, this was first shown to me when I was in isolation. A guard held up the newspaper to the observation window, and I got a chuckle out of it. All right, so the title of this segment is, What Was His Staff Thinking? This primetime speech to me had nothing that the American people could absolutely hang their hat on. To me, it was style without substance, and I hate performative politics. Hate it. I have always been, despite the fact that I've got a podcast, an X space, and that I'm broadcasting out, I prefer to be silent. I truly do. I like to be quiet and deal with actions rather than words. So the pre-speech spin that went out was terrible. Everyone thought, or at least I did, that we're finally going to be provided definitive proof of the theft. Now, if you listen to the show, that I believe that people lie all the time, but math doesn't. So I'm going to give you mathematically one of the reasons I am absolutely certain 2020 was stolen. All right. You can grok it, you can AI it, but here's what I want you to look at. The number of voters from 1960 to 2024 and the gradual increase in the number of those voters. Now, using standard mathematical practices for outlier elimination, 2020 came back as 3.93 standard deviations over normal. Now, what that means is on the average number of votes that are increased each election, all right, you had to go 3.93 deviations outside of normal voter growth. The odds of that happening randomly, all right, now there's what's called the two-tailed method and the one-tailed method. Two-tailed means it could go either way. One-tailed means it can only go one way. I would argue that you should use the one-tailed method this time because traditionally the voter count has always gone up because population is always increasing. But let's use the two-tailed method. All right. The odds of this voter count being 3.93 standard deviations above normal growth are 1 in 10,400. All right. If I just went with the one-tailed method, it would be a 1 in 20,800 chance. So again, people lie, math doesn't. The math just doesn't math on this one. All right. Now, again, I can't convince you, if you don't already believe it, that the election was stolen. I believe it's like abortion at this point. Everybody has their opinion and their mind is made up. All right. I could show you the absentee ballots in Fulton County where they printed more of them than they needed. Now, they say it's only because they didn't know what the demand was going to be during the COVID-19 thing. That's a possibility. We got to give it to them. I can show you ballot harvesting as they did in the movie, 2000 Mules? All right. I can show you video of them rerunning ballots through machines. I can show you ballots being trucked across state borders into Pennsylvania and a sworn deposition from a mailman that said he brought them there. It doesn't matter. Here's my problem with the speech that went out last week. It didn't resolve the issue, and they allowed the spin pre-speech to go out to be as if it was going to. But I've got a bigger issue with it now that I've taken the time and read through all the documents. I am still convinced that the intelligence community in this nation is actively working to undermine President Trump. Intelligence community assessments in the document show that Russia preferred Trump in both 2016 and 2020. Of course they did. That's a given. All right, Joe Biden was on the payroll of Ukraine. We know that. Well, show me the proof of that. Come on. All right. Yes, he worked it through cutouts and 10% for the big guy and all that crap, but Russia knew that he was on the take. All right. I believe that these documents, which they put up on whitehouse.gov, supported the Democrat narrative that Russia was trying to support President Trump. They are still actively undermining the President of the United States. Added to this, all right, since he's given the speech, as a matter of fact, let's go back to since he's been elected. And he said he was going to be the president that destroyed the deep state, that destroyed the two-tier system of justice, and that he would be our retribution. Not one Democrat that stole the 2020 election has been arrested. There hasn't even been a real investigation. I'm going to tell you right now, with 20 men, badges, and the authority to investigate, I will have Mark Elias's hide on a spit very quickly. He was the architect of the 2020 theft, and he and his people hurt the United States. He hurt our citizens. They destroyed 200 years of Americans choosing their president, and they're gonna get away with it. They undermined everything I fought for in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I believe they are going to absolutely walk scot-free for the rest of their life. What about the SAVE Act? Was there any mention in there? Now, one of the last documents in there, it talks about the fact that only 10 states have cleaned their voter rolls. Now, I haven't looked recently, but as I understand it, 28 states have Republican governors, and I believe out of those, 25 of those have Republican legislatures. Why is that number not 25 states have already cleaned their voter rolls? Why? And let me point the laser at a state that honestly is better than Texas 90% of the time at being conservative. Why hasn't Florida cleaned its voter rolls? If Texas can do it, I guarantee you Florida can. They just haven't done it yet. Maybe they've done it before and they're just not in complete compliance, but they were not listed as one of the 10 states. It is my supposition that the uniparty, and one exists in every single state. We have one in Texas right now. All right. Does not want voter rolls clean. They do not want to change the status quo. They are afraid of real conservatives getting into power and actually doing real conservative things like cutting your taxes, stopping government spending. They can't have that because they want that government spending because of the feedback loop where it goes to the NGOs that their wives are probably sitting on the board on, or the 501c3s that their wives own and occupy. Money flows into there and then into their pocket. It's the old loop. Why do you think they're so angry about USAID? Because it's hitting them personally in the pocket. So what this speech did to me is it told me absolutely, completely, once and for all that the America I believe in is gone. It's gone. There is no equal justice under law. There is no representative government. You don't have one anymore. It's government of, by, and for whoever can provide the most money to the representatives. And it won't be yours again until blood is spilled. There is a saying that you can vote your way into socialism, but you have to shoot your way out. And I am 100% convinced that is where we're going. Rox, how do you like my optimism today?
Oh, you are always the most optimistic person I know.
I actually am. That's what's, I am an optimist by trade, but I'm telling you, that speech was a solid kick in the jimmy for me. I expected so much more, and his staff work is just so pathetic on it. I don't get it. I don't understand. There was nothing new. It was the usual rambling about things that are irrelevant for the first 3 or 4 minutes. Why can't, again, Let's go back to the U.S. Air Force. Every speech has three main points. There's an introduction, there are your three main points, and then there's a conclusion where you talk about your three main points. This is simple, and we can't get that out of the President of the United States. All right? He is a political genius. I'm not. He is really 3-0 in elections, but we'll give him 2-1. All right? I'm 0-1. So who am I to criticize him? But I am telling you, I am pessimistic right now for our country because we're not doing the things needed to be done to restore what was stolen from us in 2020 and what the country has happened to the country since then. Southern, what are your thoughts on this, ma'am?
I'd rather him have been like, hey, here's what happened. Here's the arrest warrants in my hand. Let's go to live feed and watch them be all arrested. I don't ask for much. I'm just sick of we're going to investigate, and then nothing ever happens.
And that is a tool of the deep state. They try and convince us it's performative politics. Everything is performative politics. If somebody could grok this or real quick, has Jim Jordan's committee ever proffered somebody for an indictment? Or is it all just performative politics? All sound bites so that Republicans can generate campaign ads while some hapless Democrat sits in front of their bench? Because we see it the other way around. Like when Mark Mullen was called a racist by whoever that dude is that we just voted out in Texas. What would you do, Southern? Would arrest be your first thing? And again, for those of you that say that, oh, you can't arrest until the investigation's done, I'm just going to call Bravo Sierra on you, all right, immediately. And, Mom, I'm having a real tough time obeying your rule today. I'm just being honest. I am about as frustrated as it gets. But J6ers, myself included, were arrested on shoestring evidence. Okay, you can be arrested for anything. They can hold you for 24, 48 hours. You could be arrested for sedition. There is enough there with Mark Elias already to put him in the clink for sedition. They kept Proud Boys and Oath Keepers under arrest, tried them for sedition, wouldn't let them out, and those charges were eventually just dropped by Todd Blanche 4 years later after their lives had been destroyed, or 5 years later. So don't tell me you can't arrest people. So, Southern, who would be your top three to arrest? Mark Elias is number one for me. Period. Dot. He is the architect of the steal.
Can't even think of his name right now. The guy that keeps going in front of Congress and lying, and we keep catching him in lies. He'd be the first one that I arrest.
Well, there's a lot of those, but Adam Schiff comes to mind. I don't think Schiff was involved in the steal, but Pelosi would definitely be locked up. And the thing of it is, when you lock them up, they will start singing. They will turn on each other, and they will all start singing. So, Rox, what about you? What would you do if you were President Trump? Do you feel like we've even had a legitimate investigation into 2020?
I do. I know things are slow, and what would I do if I was President Trump is, I don't know, try not to get killed because a lot of people are trying to assassinate him, but also do your job. But he is. I really do think he is. It's just, I know it's a nightmare to how it goes. Everything takes years to uncover. I think he went off on the ground running, and he's doing the best he can with hopefully the best people he thinks will do the job. But I don't know. Buckster came up, so he might have a better answer than me.
I was going to him next, but I'll be honest with you. How long are you going to give him? We installed deep state Blondie, who did nothing. We finally got rid of her, and now we're going to possibly put a Democrat in, Todd Blanche, who's done nothing really. Epstein.
It only takes 4 years to destroy the country, but it'll take like 8 to 12 to restore what they did in 4. It's difficult and to do it the right way, I think.
Okay, but again, I'm telling you, I don't care if it's done the right way. I want it done. All right. Again, I know what was done to me. It's. Go ahead, Buckster. Thoughts?
Hey, thanks, Colonel. Good to see you. Good to see you, Rox, Dr. Angela, everybody. Listen, I'm 100% with you on this. It's extremely frustrating, but unfortunately for us, I think one of the things that holds them back and why they're attempting to do ironclad cases and it's taking so long is because when they get to the DC courts, which is where most of this will most likely be prosecuted, what the judges are going to do, because we have a significant problem in our judicial system.
You are absolutely not wrong there. I had somebody say, well, look, the judges said this, and I'm like, and? Was another key takeaway from my experience. My judge was completely, absolutely 100% corrupt. I had no chance of a fair trial in his court. None. And you don't.
But you're right. It should be happening because, look, you have a federal Air Force veteran that I know personally who was prosecuted for driving through the state of Massachusetts with legally purchased weapons in Arizona, was moving here, and they held him for 139 days with no bail. The case still hasn't gone back to court, and the guy's life has been ruined because he supports President Trump. He's a Republican. He's also a veteran, decorated, and they just don't care. So our court systems are what needs to be fixed more than anything so we can properly prosecute and have people uphold the law. But I'm still with you because I would like to see them, even if they have to go through the arrest and they walk, they at least went through the arrest. And I think it's time. I agree with you. I think we've been waiting too long. And if it was my choice, I would take all of the video of Nancy Pelosi on J6 and I would build a case right there for her because I'd love to see her and her husband not only investigated, but prosecuted. And there's many others, Adam Schiff, all of them. But you're right. Our system has been significantly corrupted. And unfortunately, because President Trump is surrounded by deep state individuals, just like he was in his first term, all right, we're going to have this problem. And things in some areas are getting worse. And that's another subject. But the Muslification of this country needs to stop.
No, I'm right there with you. Nathan, I'll be with you in just a second. That's why I said I'm very pessimistic today. All right. And I can tell you right now that my campaign manager / wife is going to chew my A out over this little rant because she believes that you should always appear positive. There's a thing in politics called the happy warrior. All right. Where that's who people like to vote for. Somebody that is always cheerful or that always sees a way out of this. I don't see a way out of this right now. All right. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that I just take my ball and go home? No. I will actively work to elect Republicans this November with one exception. All right. And I'm not voting for the Democrat in that race. I'm just undervoting that race. I just cannot put a man of such low character in office deliberately. But anyway, I'm not taking my ball and going home. But I don't see a silver lining on this one, all right? And I don't see how we recover when they're becoming even worse. Flock, as a postscript to last week, all right, they're now saying that they can individually track you. It's not just vehicles in their own stuff. And nobody's really doing anything about it yet, all right? Again, we live in a surveillance state and nobody cares. We watched them steal the presidency. Nobody really cares. All right. We cared enough to put President Trump back in. But if nobody is held accountable for the theft of 2020, it's going to be far worse next time. All right, Nathan, I apologize for the delay, sir. Go ahead.
Not a problem. Good morning, afternoon, wherever you are, everyone. There's a couple last week or a week before, there was a committee that put forward a bill or a motion to hold Judge Boasberg accountable. And then I believe it was the Senate. We had several Republicans join in on this and protecting Judge Boasberg from being held accountable in any shape or form or fashion. Is doing a pretty good job of running cover for these types of people within the Senate. And I think if we start holding these type of people accountable, and maybe even going after their sponsors, lobbyists, get the pharmaceutical and everything else that own these people basically, and need to start holding these people accountable who are protecting the deep state, if you would. And that includes doing, I don't know, there is information for these names, but They're all protecting themselves and the entire deep state. It's disgusting.
Is there a way of voting ourselves out of this? Rox, you seem to be the most optimistic of the three of us, so I'll come to you, Southern. Do you think we can vote our way out of this one?
Me or Southern?
You first.
Oh, I don't know, but we can try, and that's all you can do. Because what else do you have? You can't. We don't really want civil war. We don't want that to happen. Not in the U.S. As much as some of you rah like let's burn it all down people want to, like it would be absolute chaos. So you got to do what you can do with what you have, in my opinion. I know it's hard and it's going to be difficult, but all you can do is try to wake people up and get them like to see the reality of the situation and to fight. Do what you're doing. Run for office. Run for your local politics. Do something about it. Do the best you can. There's always going to be corruption in every single thing you do, every single job you do, no matter how good it is, no matter how many honorable people around you. There's always those little snakes in the bushes.
All right, absolutely. So, Southern, let me come to you. Rox says that we can vote ourselves out of this one. Do you think we can?
I don't see it, just because based on history, we haven't been able to, and now seeing how easy it is to install other people, I don't see how we get ourselves out of this anymore.
I didn't say we could. I just said I hope we can.
No, I get it. I believe me, it's the last thing we want. We talked about this a few weeks ago. This would be nasty and brutish, and everyone would suffer. All right, Isaac, go ahead, sir. Isaac? All right. We'll come back to you, Isaac. Let's move on to the next one. All right. Now, as we said a while ago, Iran is just not that interesting to us until something happens. And apparently it has happened because we are bombing the heck out of them right now. The Strait of Hormuz is apparently blocked again. All right. Visible maritime traffic through the Hormuz checkpoint or choke point stopped when Iranian forces targeted two tankers attempting to transit the narrow waterway closer to Oman. The IRGC, Iran's Revolutionary Guards, claimed two crude oil tankers exploded and were immobilized using what Tehran called the unsafe southern route in the Hormuz. The arrogance of that. Yes, that route is unsafe. You shouldn't transit that because we're going to blow you up and make it unsafe. I'm sorry, it just makes me laugh. So Bloomberg ship tracking data also shows that vessels crossing the Hormuz checkpoint have come to a near standstill. All right, as we are bombing targets there. Now, Iran hit Jordan's Aqaba Airport with ballistic missiles, as well as U.S. assets at Kuwait's Al-Adiri camp and Ali al-Salim Air Base, and also a couple of locations in Syria. They also hit civilian infrastructure, notably power generation and water desalination plants in Kuwait. On a local note, an airman, I believe, and I will get her name later, but she was from Carrollton, Texas, gave her life for her country over the weekend in one of these strikes. So war always hits home at some point, and I am terribly sorry for the loss of that serviceman. Now, U.S. Central Command said overnight that it's begun a new wave of strikes aimed at degrading Iran's ability to attack ships in the Strait. The problem with this is you can't really deal with it given the drones. Let's be honest, oil tanker is not really able to maneuver in the way and get out of the way of a missile or a drone. So we don't have a good solution to this right now. And you can't stop a man with a drone or a missile unless you're willing to glass the whole southern part of Iran close to the Strait of Hormuz, which I'm good with. All right. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was quoted overnight as saying that U.S. forces would continue targeting Iran while it attacks global shipping lanes in the Strait. So which came first? I don't know. The Straits of Hormuz are international waterways, and they continue to launch against ships in the international waterway. We know that, but we knew they were going to do this. I'm just going to say this again. I say it all the time. You cannot make peace with a fire ant. All right, so can I stick my foot near their bed or in their bed and say to them, hey, don't bite me and I won't bite you back? No, it's the same thing with the Iranians. All right. The only solution is the same one as with the fire ant. And I'm to the point where I don't want to spend a single drop of American blood to do it. I'm getting to the point where I think they just need to join a very exclusive global club that is currently only occupied by one nation. As a matter of fact, if I was to do a pie chart of that one nation with a red pie chart on a white background, you get the idea of what nation I'm talking about. I want no peace with Iran anymore. You can't have peace with a Muslim. It's taqiyya. They're going to break their word. They're going to lie to you. They're going to do whatever they need to do. So I'm to the point where I want to depopulate that entire southern strip. I want to give them a lesson in American firepower again that they need. So my question is, if you were President Trump, what would you do in this situation now that you've got us into a war that is very unpopular with the American people? How do you get out of it? Rox.
Exactly. What are you asking?
How do you get out of this war? If you were President Trump, what would you do?
Honestly, I would have just crushed them. I know he's hoping for a diplomatic solution because there are innocents there. But at this point, I think he's learned a lesson, and he's been doing it. He's hitting them hard. I know he's still a little bit slow because you don't want to hurt the people at the same time. But at this point, I think he's over it and fed up with it. And I would just crush the entire regime if I was him. Like, sorry, wipe them off the face of the planet. They're never going to change. It's just historically who they are. It's in their doctrine. It's what they believe in, that they can lie to get their way. They don't believe in peace. They don't believe in innocence. They only believe in cruelty and power. So wipe them off.
All right, so
they got to go.
Let me ask you a question. So if we were to hit them with a TAC nuke on one of their airfields that's, I'm going to say, away from civilization. So in other words, I'm trying to still be humane even as I use a weapon of mass destruction. Do you think that'd get their attention? Because I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think it would. I think they are suicidal in their determination, and I want to figure out a way of depopulating that region that I need depopulated without killing people. I can help it. But do you think a TAC nuke would deter them?
No, I think they would turn it around and wipe it in our face that this is why we need our own nuclear weapons. See, world, see what they did to us? Look at all the suffering they did. They're just going to use it to turn that around on us. And no, I don't think it would do anything to help because they're going to do that anyway.
Yep.
Like I said, we shouldn't do that whenever they can't have a nuclear power. They could just twist that around, and everybody in the propagandists who are out there pushing one narrative is going to literally push that. Well, we use it against them. Now we're going to have to do this. We shouldn't do that. It's just, we're doing enough already. It is working, even if it's slow, but I don't think it's going to grab any special attention. They believe in dying for their cause so they can have their 72 versions, no matter if they said it was girl versions, goat versions, dog versions, whatever.
All right. Southern, I know you're not a military person. You generally hate military questions, but do you think a TAC nuke would deter them? And what would you do if you were President Trump?
I think at this point, it'd be a pretty nice parking lot, and we should allow that to happen for them.
I'm with you. And I bet you if we asked the mom of that servicewoman that was killed, she'd pretty much be the same way. But I understand what Rox is saying. And again, do we really want that genie out of the bottle? I don't know. I wish there was something we could do. It looks like there's a pretty good island down there right near there that we could take over, fortify, and put a ton of artillery on to just blast the entire area. But I don't know how to stop their missiles and drones. Go ahead, Nathan.
A lot of their military tunnels are in the mountains. A tactical nuke would ideal to hit it. I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, sir. I just coughed. Apologize.
Okay. No, that would be ideal, but because it is remote from the normal population, but I think there is seems to have been some plans where it wants to go in and retrieve a lot of items, and I'm not sure if that's going to be beneficial to their goals. But they are getting the Gulf states and Saudi Arabia to invest in the reconstruction. And I think this is a very smart move on their part, because it essentially is going to build a dependency on the other nations to make sure that Iran is doing the right thing, and to some extent handing control over to Saudi Arabia.
Well, all right, they are the more rational of the group, and I will tell you, the family of Saud, having dealt with them personally, they're better than the rest of them. They do have their fringe crazy end too, though. But I do worry, because I saw that they hit desalination plants in Kuwait, and you have to have those desalination plants. I looked at a study where it was 90% of the population of Saudi Arabia would be destroyed if you could keep their desalination plants offline for over a month. So that's how critical those are in the Middle East. All right, let's move on to the next topic, because this one I'm going to call it another forever war, and I don't see a way out of it anytime soon. Terrorism again hit New York City. Now, I haven't seen a name on this. Rox, if you want to see if one's come out in the time when I was leaving my home to drive to the studio here. But terrorism hit New York City this morning. The FBI arrested a suspect who had detonated an incendiary device this morning. There was video of it. I didn't watch the video, but Rox, if you could watch the video while I'm talking and see if you can glean anything out of it, given your EOD experience. But immigration agents and the FBI rushed out, guns drawn, and they apprehended the suspect, no name. Honestly, looks like a white male, so we'll see, don't know. I've got the picture, I think Rox just put it in there, of him being detained by officers. So their statement said that this morning an individual deployed an incendiary device outside of 26 Federal Plaza. The individual has been taken into custody, and the FBI New York Joint Terrorism Task Force is investigating the incident. That building, 26 Federal Plaza, houses offices for agencies including DHS, ICE, USCIS, the FBI, and the Social Security Administration. And this attack comes mere days after Secretary of State Rubio again warned of far-left terrorism across the West. Now, I believe this is going to start happening more and more. Why? Well, because the left operates above the law, mostly. And in blue states, absolutely. I only say mostly because in Texas, the Antifa sale that shot at the ICE facility, they just got some significant jail time for what they had done. All right. So, but New York's a blue state. They're probably going to be applauded, cheered. That guy's probably already back on the street. I'm kidding. Hopefully not, but he might be. So I think in blue states, leftists know they have no reason to fear justice, and we've not given them one. As I said, the leftists control the intelligence community, the DOJ, Congress, and all other parts of the government except the presidency. And they're going to again seize that in 2028 if we don't make it too big to rig. I guarantee you they learn from their mistakes in 24, and they have a better plan to steal the election the next time. All right, so Rox, looking at that device, did you have a chance to look at that?
I am looking at the video that you had posted coming from Double Dash. And so what it looks like to me from the beginning is something like either gasoline or diesel, and then someone throws something, a container, into it and runs away. I'm not sure if that's the guy that gets arrested, but somebody grabs him. So that's the cop. So that's who they're arresting. I don't know if it's the same guy with what I'm seeing here. Set the little fire, but whatever he's doing there is what pops off. It gets overheated at one point. It could be anything. It could have something in it. It wasn't that much, look like a small firecracker, but he throws a canister in there. It could just be that canister exploding from the heat pressure. The fire does not touch the building at all. It's just the sidewalk in front of it. So the building will have no damage to it at all.
No, that's what I thought too. Honestly, it looked like more of a protest. When you start exploding things near federal buildings, they do tend to get antsy. Southern, did you see anything more on this, or have you seen anything? Did you watch this morning?
I'm watching it right now. I don't see anything that stands out, to be honest.
All right, I want to segue for a second before we get to segment 4 there, and I want to ask Southern some questions. Again, I know the Carmelo Anthony trial is over, but the leftists here are absolutely losing their mind, and saying that Judge Roach was biased and because of some deal made with the prosecution, Carmelo's going to get a new trial. Again, my understanding is that Judge Roach's record on being overturned is like 2,000 to none, in that he's never overturned. What can you tell us about this? Do the Carmelo Anthony advocates have any hope of a new trial?
Just from based off of what I've seen, what they've submitted, they don't have a chance yet. Everybody is eligible to have an appeal submitted. It doesn't mean it has to be heard. It doesn't mean that you have sufficient evidence to get a new trial. I give them credit for trying. However, like submitting a video of somebody saying, I'm trying to get in, I'm pressed, but I'm not really pressed. I haven't been able to attend because there's too many people. That's not a reason for a new trial. Like, nobody's guaranteed a spot to sit there except for those that were proved visa.
I saw that, and I just started laughing. You're not getting into the audience gallery where you're supposed to remain silent as reason for a new trial. Come on, give me something procedural, something Judge Roach screwed up. And I'm telling you, having been in his courtroom, all right, again, for a divorce case, that guy didn't play games. He is probably, and again, my sample size is 3 judges, but he is the most no-nonsense judge I've ever met in my life. And I was very thankful that he was selected. So I think Carmelo is going to enjoy all 35 of his years behind the Texas State Prison. All right. Now, this next segment, all right, and again, I tried to find something that was just slightly different. All right, so when we start talking about robots, I'm just going to let rocks, being the optimist that I am, what comes to mind is, of course, the Terminator. And then when we start talking about AI and robots, Skynet. All right, so I'm pretty convinced our days are numbered. And I was literally thinking as I wrote this stuff out and started reading this article that maybe the robots will do a better job than we will. So there is a term called convergence. And as the age of the robot nears, I think this is going to become more and more prevalent. And it fits the pattern with new technology. The first version of a technology appears quietly, almost unnoticed inside research papers, patent filings, laboratory demonstrations, and corporate presentations designed to attract capital, but very little attention beyond specialists. The second version arrives years later. It will be polished into a consumer product that suddenly convinces everyone that the breakthrough happened overnight. Think back to what Elon Musk recently said, is that it's his stick-to-itiveness, his grit, his determination to continue led to Tesla, led to SpaceX. And so these things to me happened overnight, but I didn't see the work that went into creating them. Now, this is extremely apparent in the race to build machines that no longer resemble machines at all. During the last 3 years, humanoid robotics has advanced at a pace that, honestly, few analysts consider realistic even a decade ago. Tesla is developing the Optimus. Figure AI has demonstrated robots capable of performing increasingly advanced language models. Boston Dynamics has introduced an entirely electric generation of Atlas robots after retiring one of their other research robots. Sanctuary AI, Agility Robotics, Apptronic are openly competing to place humanoid-shaped machines inside factories, warehouses, and commercial environments. They didn't say anything about homes yet. But as I was reading this, I was thinking, God, it would be nice to have something that would clean up the Labrador worth of fur that's on my floor a day after I vacuumed it. All right. Simultaneously, all right, there have been breakthroughs recently in computer vision, reinforcement learning, synthetic materials, and multimodal artificial intelligence, which have reduced the distance between experimental prototypes and practical deployment. Science fiction, like in Blade Runner, is becoming reality, and it's starting to unfold in plain sight. Now, there are countless stories right now circulating through speculative technology communities. When I hear that, I'm thinking, Are there really communities for speculative technology, or is this some Reddit group of incels? Anyway, don't know. But one thing that continues to resurface, all right, has not still been independently verified. It describes invitation-only exhibitions allegedly organized inside anonymous research complexes where visitors were shown humanoid entities unlike anything previously demonstrated in public. Again, sounds like a great movie. As a matter of fact, I think I saw that movie. I think it was called, what, Deus Ex Machina? All right, the other day. Now, the descriptions vary in countless small details while remaining strangely consistent about the central image. Long rows of transparent containment chambers reportedly filling an immense exhibition hall with enclosed female humanoid robots whose appearance challenged the very definition of robotics. Of course they'll be female. Visitors allegedly expected exposed actuators, composite frames, or polished metallic joints, but instead they found figures possessing skin that reflected light, with subtle biological imperfections, naturally distributed hair, nearly imperceptible facial asymmetry, and eyes that appeared disturbingly capable of maintaining attention. Some accounts insist these were sophisticated androids. So the key question concerns perception. All right, now, early industrial robots never attempted to resemble humans because efficiency mattered more than familiarity. But convergence is what is needed to put one in every single home. Modern humanoid research pursues the opposite objective. Engineers recognize that machines designed to work alongside people will benefit from recognizable gestures, natural movement, and intuitive communication. So AI no longer exists solely inside software. It is gradually acquiring a physical presence capable of navigating environments originally built for biological life. That is what convergence is, trying to make the artificial robot appear to be more human. It is my opinion, and I'm curious what my female co-hosts think about this, that we're less than 10 years from robots being everywhere. And I believe that the world's first trillionaire might be the next trillionaire again, but the next trillionaire will certainly be whoever founds the company that builds these robots. There are millions of incels that will pay billions of dollars for them, especially if they are attractive females, because that's the way the male has been designed for eons. So, Rox, what are your thoughts on the robot?
Oh my God, I have so many opinions on this subject. It's ridiculous because I see the good and the bad and the ugly with this. And yet everything that's sci-fi written in books turned to movies comes to life. It's like we wished it into existence. Now, I see like the deep state using this to help depopulate the earth further in that agenda, but it's literally going to distract all you males. But however, you guys at least get to reproduce for the rest of your life. So maybe we do have more like the artificial parts having to happen just to keep the humans alive on the earth. But I also have a bad back and I'm in pain most of the time. And I would like someone to pick up all my previous husky fur too all the time, because that's a nightmare. Someone to help me wash dishes, maybe mow the lawn. The little robot lawnmowers. If anybody wants to like get me on a like VA program to help me out there, that'd be awesome. Because I've seen those things and I was like, that would be so convenient. Because sometimes I can't handle it anymore, where I used to be able to. So I see the good and the bad, and everything intended for good. Even with nuclear energy and nuclear weapons, what did we do as human species? We weaponize it. Because that's the bad part of our humans. We take everything good and we use it for evil. And you males will be distracted because you could program something that looks like your favorite little toy so it doesn't nag you and talk back. It is literally what every male. So you males are the ones creating this problem at the same time, okay? I don't see females designing all these robots. I see the dudes doing it because they want little toy robots that don't nag them, unless I guess they want to be.
What about you, Southern? What are your thoughts on this? And I'm going to come back to your comments there, Rox, on the why female. Because I'll be honest with you, wouldn't a male robot be attractive to you as well? Because you could have it do all those things?
No. Well, no. Because, I don't know, women, we're complicated creatures. Sometimes we want a challenge, okay? Unless you can program that into a robot, we might not like it anymore. You males are simple. We're complicated. We don't even understand ourselves half the time.
Wow. How about that sexism from my co-host? Go ahead, Southern. What are your thoughts on these robots, ma'am?
I've seen iRobot. I know why we should not be doing this.
Agree. Science fiction has a wealth of movies. Let's just I'll do Ex Machina I mentioned earlier, where basically it's a Turing test. The guy was brought to this gazillionaire's compound to test the robot, and what happens? The robot kills them both and goes loose in society. All right, we've seen iRobot, where bad robots try and take over the world. We've got Blade Runner, where thank God we built the battery life in them, or there was going to be an issue, but then they found a way to procreate, I think, in Blade Runner 2. What other robot movies am I missing? And every one of them ends poorly. Obviously, Terminator. How'd that end up for us? We all had a barcode on our forearm and we're getting processed. So if our imaginations are telling
Matrix?
us... Matrix?
The Matrix.
If our imaginations are... They turn us all into batteries. So that's a good one. Is there any... I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Wall-E, didn't humans and robots eventually get along in that one? I can't remember.
Something where we're all fat and like little robot wheelchairs, like they take care of us. They wheel us around, and we become little obese blobs that can't even survive going back to Earth. And then there's Idiocracy. There's all kinds of movies where we just let technology take over and we get dumber and dumber because the dumb people keep repopulating and the smart people wait until they have a career.
All right, so let's talk about this. Obviously, I think sex is going to drive this industry if they can do that. You said something that I don't agree with. I will tell you, as a man, I do not want a submissive, compliant robot, all right, at all times. That would take all joy from life. Value of an intelligent female is very high to me. Cannot be with a dumb person. It just does not work ever. So I reject your notion categorically there that men just want dumb, compliant robots. There may be some that
You're the exception to the rule, okay? There's a lot more dumber men than you. You were a fighter pilot. You at least have some more intelligence than the average cookie out there, okay?
All right. Well, thank you for that. Now, so the robots that you use, all right, I got to be honest with you. Why put men in cockpits? Why put EOD techs out there disarming bombs if I can have robots do it? So
remember, we use robots in EOD.
I know you do. And we use drones in the Air Force all the time. So where are we going? That's what I'm saying. It could render war absolutely obsolete here, which is not necessarily a bad thing either. Do you think you're going to see it in the next 10 years? Do you think my timeline's off?
Oh, no, I think it's already here. It's already happening. If you look at some of the quote-unquote sex robots in Japan and other countries, these little small countries, they have, like, stations for this where you can put your pee-pee in a whole little lineup of things, okay, for, like, $1 or something. Like, it's already happening. It's already here. Some things we do have regulations on, but other countries, I think it's already there. And they already have prototypes for the past 5 or 10 years, even if they're robotic still. We're going to get there. I think it's already here. And as far as when it comes to war, like good and bad, but I'd rather a robot go down than a loss of a life at the same time. But I think you still need human judgment and human perception and everything. When it comes to that, you can't let Terminator take over. I'm sorry, that's just a bad idea.
No, I agree. It's a bad idea. All right, we'll go to hands now. Lucky will come to you, and then Isaac. Go ahead, Lucky.
All right, thanks a lot. Just one of the other things to consider, I think, are countries like that are having lower birth rates, like Japan. I thought I'd heard that one of their solutions for that, having more older people than young people, would be some automation. So that may be a way it segues in. The sexual part is more of a novelty, but when it gets practical is when you don't have enough young people to maybe do the production. And after I was like, well, who's going to build for us? Who's going to take care of our old? And the robots might be the answer to that. So again, I think you're right that it's probably within 10 years or so. Anyway, I'll land there.
I don't think I'm wrong on the timeline, but I might be. Now, again, that's also an answer to, well, we have to import all these Muslims and H-1B visa types over to handle all this stuff for us. No, we really don't. I don't think we do. All right, go ahead, Isaac.
Well, to your comment about could never be with a woman robot, a robot replacing women is because you prefer to have an intelligent person to speak to. Isn't that why Ultra is gay? Like, why not just be gay instead?
All right, we're not going there. All right. I promise you there are plenty of intelligent women and there's plenty of intelligent men and lots of dumb ones too on both sides of this absolute issue. Great.
I'm one of the dumb ones.
That was a funny comment though. I appreciate it. All right, I just posted the latest on the Optimus robot there from Inside Wire. Southern, what would you do if you had a robot? And what price point do you think would make one affordable for you if it could handle all of the laundry, the cooking, the cleaning, and the yard work?
We cover its camera because you don't need to see inside my house. And like, I'm cheap, so I need like the $2,000 model.
So I was thinking about that as well. And all right, so at least in Texas, all right, and now we clean our own house. We don't have a maid, but I think that would probably be about $250 a week would be my guess. I haven't priced it for that. Yard service is $40 a week during the summer, roughly. So now I'm at roughly $1,200. All right, what is somebody doing the dishes, cooking meals, cleaning bathrooms worth to you? I think $2,000 is probably cheap because you're going to offset that within a couple of months. I think the initial price point to make this affordable for most people will need to be below $10,000, but I think it'll be right there at the $10,000 mark. Go ahead, Ultra.
Well, you guys are basically describing Rosie from the Jetsons, so I'm going to assume that all of us are going to want her to have a charming Brooklyn accent and be like, "Oh, Mr. J." But here's some other films that you folks forgot: Space Odyssey with Hal. I'm sorry, Dave. I can't allow you to do that, Dave. Also, Alien. Remember that the robot is the one who betrayed them all and let them all die.
Yes.
So I'm with Southern, and Southern covering your camera wouldn't do crap. It would still be able, with all of its sensors and things like that. There is nothing. I don't care if they want to give it to me. I refuse to even have a smart TV. So I am not going to let a robot over here. And I remember, I will try and censor myself, but when they were showing what Optimus could do, and it's like it can watch over you as you sleep and monitor your breathing and your heart rate, and I was like, no, the F, it will not.
Yep.
And I'm not kidding. No, the F, it will not.
No, I'm with you on that, but I was just thinking, well, all right, so other robots, we've got obviously Optimus Prime and Megatron, so we've got robots trying to kill us and trying to help us. But I would say the vast majority of science fiction is filled with robots be bad. Let's go back to Isaac Asimov with the 3 laws. All right. No robot will harm a human. No robot will, through inaction, do anything to harm a human. I can't remember what the other one was, but that's where they derived the 3 laws safe in iRobot. So again, see what comes out of that. But Southern, you said $2,000. Rox, what is your price point to purchase a handy dandy robot?
Okay, my price point is like $0 unless, like, I don't know, they start issuing them through the VA or something. Those things are going to cost at least more than a Tesla, like at least $80,000. It's going to be way more than a vehicle, way more than probably a small house. So unless you're one of the rich people, you're not going to get one anyway.
So now there's a question that it's a great question. I would like somebody to ask Elon Musk, because Henry Ford could have built the automobile for just an exclusive group of people, but he chose to build it for widespread dissemination. So what is Elon going to do? Because Elon controls the price of the Optimus robot. And I'm assuming, and I think I've got a pretty good reason to assume, that it's going to be Optimus that probably wins. We'll see. Who knows? There could be some dude sitting in his garage right now working on something. Or dudette. All right, go ahead, Isaac.
I'm just thinking about how much debt we have in this country. Is it going to end the moment that we end up having robots come out that can clean your house for you and do your dishes? I'm fortunate enough to have 5 kids, so they can clean the dishes for me. I don't have to pay for that. But one of these days they're out of the house. I'll probably be taking out a car loan or whatever the equivalent is at that point, the Optimus loan, in order to buy it. And I think it'll probably be a price point of like $25,000.
That's interesting to see. Hey, can someone grok it real quick before we sign off and see what if there is a price point for an Optimus robot right now, or what the proposal is? All right, so that term convergence, though, is interesting to me, and I think it's something to pay attention to. Again, is this a little bit whimsical? But I wanted something light to end the show on. All right, Dr. A, I'm sorry that we haven't been able to pester you with all these questions. What would you pay for a robot if you can come back on? All right, and what are your thoughts? Would you allow your husband? All right, so that's a good married couple question. Would you allow your husband, and I'll come to you, Southern, you can answer this first while Dr. A preps to get off the phone. Would you allow your husband to buy an attractive female robot? Go ahead, Southern.
Well, first of all, that's gross. And the price point Grok says is 20 to 30K. Okay.
Well, that's about right. So you say that's gross. Again, I'm with you. It's gross. Rox, what about you? Would you let an attractive female robot come into the home?
I don't know. My twisted mind goes hell to the gnaw, but then at the same time, I would let's see if you can handle this challenge, male, and if you deserve me. I don't know. I'm one of those weird people like that. And I did grok it too, and what Southern said, but also they're going to offer a program, it looks like, for the 1X Neo, apparently, for $4.99 a month, like a monthly subscription. So, this is funny. That's all to me. I don't know, because I think women are beautiful creatures, so, I wouldn't mind the robot looking pretty. I don't want her to look like an old maid. I don't really care. It doesn't bother me, but if my husband started looking at it a little too much, I'm going to be like, really, dude? But, come on. I don't know. But I'll accept that challenge, I guess.
All right, Isaac, we'll come to you then, Buckster, and then we're going to wrap for the day.
It's only gross if the robots are not self-cleaning, Southern.
Oh, God.
All right. Buckster, go ahead, sir.
I'd like to officially announce my candidacy for official tester, and then I can report back to everybody and let how it works.
All right, we'll have to let Elon know that. I find that funny. All right, Squirrel, I see your hand up. Go ahead, sir.
With the technological singularity, convergence, and this, the one thing that has been on my mind for a long time is if we're going to get to the point where total collapse of what we consider to be business for the whole world happens because of, for some reason, whether it's AI that jailbreaks and takes over the internet and messes everything up, and the whole world's going to be screaming for safety and security and want them their way of business to start back up again, and then the option that's leveraged for the solution will maybe be like the mark of the beast. Like, we're really going to all have to either converge all at once quickly into transhumanistic state or be left on the wayside. And I'm like, oh, God help me, I'm not around. I hope the rapture is real, but if it's not, I hope I'm also prepared that I'm willing to face this and even die so I don't deny my own faith. So,
no, I agree. It's going to be interesting. Right now, I know that there is a plan, given the capabilities of AI and some thoughts about replacing court reporters. All right. And with that, and my argument is, why stop there? If I could have an AI judge that was actually capable of rendering facts, as opposed to the judge in my divorce case, which was Judge Lindsay Wynn, that gave my ex everything, then I would be very in favor of an AI judge. So we'll see what actually happens. All right. Going to wrap up. I'm going to try and be a little bit optimistic, but one of the things that I'll do is I will go and troll, all right, liberal Facebook groups. All right, and so I have been trolling. I'll come to you in just a second, Ultra. I have been trolling a group and get called mean-spirited and a bully all the time. So go ahead, Ultra, and then I'll wrap with the quote.
Okay, well, I was going to ask actually a question to the panel and to the audience, but
that's fine.
Maybe
go ahead.
People can just ponder this. What if you were diagnosed with a terminal disease and they had the ability to put your brain inside of a robot body? You get the strength of 10 gorillas. You can either have X-ray vision or a cloaking device, but you can't have both. However, your robot is only 4'8" tall. Would you do it?
Yes, because I know that eventually I'm going to get a taller robot body. So, but it is an interesting conundrum and one to think about. And I think you are absolutely right, though, Ultra. That's something we didn't talk about. But there will come a day when that technology will exist and people will cease to die. And there's plenty of movies on that one as well. All right, back to the real world for a second. So as a conservative, whenever you introduce points in there, such as yes, illegal aliens should be deported, or no, children should not be drugged into sexcapades, all right, you get called mean-spirited and evil and, oh, you're just a maggot. I hate that phrase. All right. No, we're not. And so I think it's useful to you to, again, study history. All right. Every time you try and say something is wrong, you are going to be called mean-spirited. So there is a quote from Charles Spurgeon. All right. It says, "Oh, my brethren, bold-hearted men are always called mean-spirited by cowards." And so if somebody's calling you mean-spirited, it's their cowardice and their reflection on you. Continue to tell the truth, all right, as you see it. You may be wrong, but tell it as you see it. And we'll see where everything happens. All right, that's all I've got for the day. I want to thank everyone that joined us. I know there was a small audience today, but that's fine. All right, because the show was just floating around in my mind. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you come back. If you like it, please share it with other people, and let's continue to grow it. Thank you very much. God bless each and every one of you. I hope you have a wonderful week, and God bless.